I see the word, how they came up with that now.
It's a new spiritual teaching.
But with this idea of projecting and or this relationship becoming a project, in this instance, for the woman creating a project out of her man, to me, that's, the same idea as I have to train him, like, oh, you hear this kind of storyline in sitcoms on TV or something like that. Like, oh, you haven't trained your husband yet, what's wrong with you? It's everything. To me, it's like, I come from the toxic pattern of that makes me want to vomit, because I'm like, you should already know, like, I don't want to train anyone, because that makes me feel like I've got to take on this responsibility and burden of being the mother here. And I definitely don't want to have that feeling. So I don't know if I have a question here. I just wanted to like say that out loud, that the training of your man, to me, and maybe it's like a whole nother end of the spectrum of that idea of creating a project, where it's like, I so badly don't want to do it, but then I feel like if he's not showing up, he's not showing up. My only option, it feels like, which obviously you've just delineated another option, which is to leave, or there's probably other ones in there, but my option, it feels like, is to create a project and be like, okay, well, let me show you, or let me show you where you need to fix something, that type of thing. And then if we're talking about archetypes, I'm in my magician, and it's not very loving at all. And it's not very feminine either.
But there is something I want to add to this. I love what you just said about the whole mother kind of thing. I do have a lot of empathy for men, and also for myself now, because most men don't have brothers with whom they can share the depth of their heart. So obviously what happens is, when they find their queen or a goddess or whatever, they're going to develop some kind of dependency upon her, but not now talking in a form of extreme attachment or something like that. But she's the one. She is the best friend as well. She's the only one who listens to the depth of his heart, while his brothers maybe make fun of him or don't understand it. And this can lead to a lot of tension. This is definitely one of the big problems that in society is that it's unbelievable. I think there was a study. Don't take me literally, but there was a study. The amount of men who commit suicide after a divorce is so staggering high compared to women, because there are no proper support systems, and which are coming now, but still energetically there needs to be a lot of change. So it's like, this was my woman, or did I just say divorce? Well, no, sorry. Divorce maybe as well, but what I was referring to was death, when a car accident or whatever, or something like that. It's like, wait a second, this person who knows my deepest, most vulnerable parts, loved me for who I am in my deepest essence, is gone now. And I have no one. And even if you have someone who maybe a little bit understands, not to the depth of how she understood me. So this is a shadow of society, and I can feel my heart very open, a lot of sadness, and I feel very emotional as I'm sharing this, is because so many men are in this position, and they are going through hell, and they're often labeled as attached, codependent, but it's not necessarily codependency always. It might be, but it can also be, okay, but I have no one else who listens to me, who holds the space to me. And that's why I care so much. That's why I want to call more often. That's why it's so important to me. And yeah, this is just like many things, this needs a lot of work on in the collective still.
Community.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's frightening and so sad. But here we are. We're going to make some strides towards changing that. And I'm so proud to be a part of it, really, and glad it's coming. Okay, little shift here, but not too big of one, of course. We're going to stay in this realm a bit. So learning to consciously relax is also a form of growing, you say, which you point out is different than sitting passively on your couch, afraid to penetrate the world with your fierce cock and compassionate heart. It's a great visual. I think you gave us a little bit earlier, but explain to us what that really looks like, this consciously relaxing for men. This is I think we touched on this a little bit, but let's go into that more.
Yeah, it's a very, 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 very beautiful question, and deep. Let's just use it's what comes through me right now. Let's use the metaphor Shiva. I don't necessarily, I just want to be careful here. I'm not a practitioner of Hinduism or come from that, but I love what Shiva stands for. I'm talking about energetic wise right now. Shiva, the destroyer of all illusions. And if you look at pictures of Shiva, it's a mixture between a warrior and also a very soft, loving, meditative poet. At least
Mhm.
that's how I see it. So you really see he's trained, he's muscular, but he's not rigid, he's not stuck. It's like he's both. He embodies both the lover and the warrior, and of course the king and magician as well, but let's use it in the warrior lover kind of scenario right now. And that's fascinating to me. And I'm not always there. But when I am difficult to put this into words, but when I'm at my best, it's a certain energy you can tap into in this collective, which is this kind of Shiva nature or Shiva energy. That's at least is my own label, obviously.
Okay.
I like to put a label to everything and just make it my own. No, I mean, yeah, it's true. And not make it my own and steal it, but always make it my own label, because I don't want to copycat or say the same thing. I just want to make this my own. And
just, I don't want to lose your train of thought there, but this podcast, our ethos is about creating your own personal philosophy in life by using work from people like you. So
to make it individual. Yeah. Thank you. And it's like this Shiva nature. And one time I was really like contemplating about it, and I was like, okay, wait a second. This Shiva nature is like water. It's like, and I know we often say water is very feminine, but still, hear me out here. It's, you are water when you can be water, and you are fire when fire is needed. So you are not just water and it becomes too soft and too flowing, and you're not just fire and burning yourself rigidly fighting. And it's really this kind of Shiva energy or consciousness is this, I also like to call it relaxed consciousness. I think Eckhart Tolle says relaxed. I think it's from him, because I want to, not dismiss anyone, obviously. Relaxed consciousness. And that's enormously an enormous turn on for the feminine, because if I'm sure you can relate, but if a man is like this, like you can feel like he has a stick in his ass, you know what I mean? It's like oh, okay, but if he's like this and just sitting like this, hey baby, I love you so much, I really appreciate you, in this kind of hinged position, and really, or not even properly looking at you, being like in this kind of position. So it's about really, this relaxed consciousness is relaxed when you can relax. But the funny thing is, the more you relax, the more you're able to harness your fire when necessary. And that's a pivot, that's a key thing.
Yes.
The more you relax into your body, the more you are sharp, fierce, powerful, present in the moment where it's required. But if you're constantly in your fire, then you're burned out.
Yeah.
And when it's required, you collapse, you break down. It's what so many men experience in their work, hustle hard, fire. They come to their woman, total collapse and breakdown. They can't deal with anything. Relax consciousness. And when it's necessary, you bring in the fire.
Yeah. The way we've heard it here before in this type of energetic work is energetic agility, and just knowing when to step into this part, this energy, and step into this energy when it's needed, so that you don't, or I love the archetype thing. Like I had an experience the other day where I had some guides tell me that I need to scream in order to get anger out of my body. Like I physically need to go out to the forest and scream, is what they said. Well, I don't have a forest around here. I'm in LA. So I went and drove on the freeway to LA in traffic, which you could be there for hours. So that's a good place to scream. So I was screaming, and what came out of me was my warrior archetype, which I could hear was her very clearly. And because I've studied the archetypes enough, I can see, and psychology generally, I think I can see, this sounds like multiple personality disorder, which maybe to a degree, we all have some of that going on. But basically I could see when that side of me, my warrior archetype, turned on. And that was the first time experientially that I could see that archetype that lives in my psyche take the forefront and say, like, this is what I needed to express. And she had a whole script she wanted to say. And I don't know, to your point, to find a place where we can allow those different archetypes to take the throne, so to speak, to head our realm for a while, so that this, whatever needs to be accomplished, can get accomplished. But once for this instance, once the warrior is done doing her job, swinging her sword, or his job, he can step back and go, okay, sovereign, king or queen in my case, who's up next, because that's the person really at command, or the person who's really dictating the psyche, the archetype that's really dictating what needs to be done and who's the best in our psyche to take on that task, so that it isn't the warrior always burning, like just always at war, because he will burn out, she will burn out. She needs to be able to relax consciously, like you're saying. Yeah, that's the way I perceive that.
I really dig this. Yes, I love the archetypes, and yeah, I love this.
Okay.
I love it.
It's sort of like, it's nice to visualize on top of the fire, the idea of Shiva. I love that as well. I think it's so important for, I don't know if it's for everybody, but for me, it's so important to have a visual mantra. The words are intellectual, but when we add visual to it and we can picture something in our mind, whether it's Shiva or this warrior or the kingdom that, has these different, the magician and the lover and everyone who takes the throne when needed, that adds it taps into the feeling piece that then allows for embodiment. It's like one little step toward.
And I think, sorry.
No, that was all.
Well, I think that like our task too, that is so hard for us as women, is like staying open so that he can relax, because it's like the more and more that he doesn't, I don't know, relax consciously, or how you talk about a woman with your consciousness and like, remaining conscious of her heart and the energy that her body transmits, the more that that's not done, the more we close up.
Yeah.
And then when we close up, then it's like we really just have two people closed, and not being able to experience all that we've talked about in this episode. And I think that women, it's like that can be the hardest part for us, is like staying open. So I think that's our task, is that,
sure.
So
I think our scripts
allows for all of that.
I know Jade and I, we've had so much time working on this together on this podcast and otherwise. Women, I'm not going to generalize for all women, but I know a lot of women, especially in my sphere, I'd say even in our sphere, we have this script of needing to protect ourselves. Yeah. And so we close.
And it's not
quickly.
even of heartache. It's more just of being let down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we've really done a good job, I think, in this show, especially you, Lorin, of just giving people an understanding of why that's come about in our society now, why that's what our culture looks like currently, but that there is a way to step towards something better, towards something else, and change this whole narrative. Yeah. And Jade, I think we do close, I don't want to say too quickly, because we chose to do that at some point in our life because it was a protective measure.
Right.
Now, when we can get to a conscious place and understand that we are going to be okay here if we stay open, and that's the work we have to do as women, is figure out how can we assure ourselves that we will be okay if we stay open. Because that's what we've become afraid of, is if we stay open, we're going to get hurt, and we have to close.
And also not playing small is our other task, I feel. I know that most men, well, we've all calling each other in for a reason. But if this dynamic is happening the way that you say that it does, the woman awakening the man, then that man has called that woman in to awaken him. But if she is not open, and if she is playing small, then how will she awaken him? She's the one that has been called in. So if she's not herself, the awakening is not going to happen. So it's our duty, as hard as it is, to be ourselves, our full expression, completely open, completely in our power. And I think a lot of times those are our two things. We close, but we also stay small, because we know that when we're in our full expression and in our full power, we may be judged, we may be treated like we're too much, we may be, rejected, whatever it may be. It may, like you said, shut him down.
It might sound abstract, but the way I see this is like this, and I totally agree. We've talked about a lot of reasons why women have a guard these days. And if you continuously have sexual experiences where you're not being honored, where you're not being respected, of course you have a guard, because why wouldn't you? That's a natural protection mechanism, not because you're weak or because you have a problem, but because that's what you experienced. And I believe, and that's the hardest thing, but if we want to get even more esoteric, I believe for every human, what's there at the end, or what the reason why we're here, is to become totally realized, totally enlightened, awakened, whatever that is. That's at least my belief and my experience. And the most, at least from how my inner teacher tells me about it and what I see, the most awakened state of a woman is when she is entirely open, but it's a different kind of openness than how most people see it. It's an openness that's also an energetic shield of protection at the same time. So this might, and I'm with a grain of salt, obviously, because I'm not saying just open, just open and you're going to be protected. Obviously, a lot of women listen to this might say, but I opened and he messed it up, right?
Mhm.
But if you go deeper and deeper and know exactly where to open and where not to open. And by the way, not opening to a man doesn't mean you're closed down necessarily. So it's also not totally black and white, but it's also not that you're rigid and protecting yourself. It's that you're still open, but
You don't feel safe.
yes, and I know this is esoteric, but I wouldn't share this if I hadn't have an experience, a bad experience. But there is a saying in a book, shamanic book, about a woman, that a modern shaman or something like that, I forgot it, or the city shaman or something like that. And he talks about a woman who goes in really dangerous districts like the Bronx or whatever, or the banlieues in France, and she goes almost with nothing on, like really hot pants or something like that, but never something happens to her. Now, am I saying you should do this? Fuck no. But just talking energetic wise and about the metaphor, when she was asked, why is never something happening to you? Like, people get shot all the time there, something happens there. What she basically answered was something along the lines of, yes, but I just trust the universe. I have this deep trust, and also listening. So again, the oracle protects you, your intuition protects you. And now I would go even as far, and this is very provocative as well, but a woman doesn't need to have the muscular strength of a man, because her oracle energy protects much more than physical strength. And I know this is very abstract, but there is even a guy, I forgot the name, who practiced something along the lines of, he could energetically protect himself in really dangerous environments where someone almost wanted to kill him, but the person couldn't approach him in the end, because energetically he was holding that space so strongly that there was no breach, there was no gap, there was nothing. And so the goal is to, yes, protect yourself, but not in the sense of shutting down your heart and isolating yourself, but protect yourself energetically. And then you can still remain open. And that is the ultimate state of the feminine, because then you're open all the time, and your oracle, your intelligence protects, has an energetic shield around you. Now, this is, of course, not simple.
Yeah, I think it's tough because it's hard to make that tangible, especially with words.
Absolutely.
But experientially, I'd say that I the way I see what you're saying is through the experience of, especially like the Me Too movement, women coming out from all over saying that they have these different stories of how that they were a victim to something. And I kind of looked at my own life and I said, I don't really have a Me Too story. And that made me think about my personality. Of course, I have this more overt masculine energy. I usually, in a group of girls, I'm the mother hen. I have this kind of protective nature about me. I'm the oldest sister. You know what I mean? Like, I have all these different things in my domestications and my conditioning and upbringing that have created this protective energy that is like just natural to me in a way. And it's not that I don't feel afraid when I walk down the street. It's that I already have a subconscious like vigilance that's going on, and I project something that isn't allowing that into my space. Like, men will converse with me. I'm not so closed that it's repulsive to men, but it's that I'm not an easy target. You know what I'm saying? Even though I have no arm muscles, like I don't have an outward appearance that would say, wow, she's going to beat me up or anything like that. It's just, I just don't put out that energy unless I want to attract the person for that reason. You know what I mean? If I want to be vulnerable with my husband or someone I feel safe with, okay, then I have to work harder. Maybe I'm letting down those walls to be able to be vulnerable because I have created such a strong energy or shield in the physically protective nature in my day-to-day life. So that's how I can envision what you're saying or put context to it. I don't know if that helps anyone listening, but to me, it's like, it's an energy you have to exude, which comes with, to intellectualize it, because sometimes we have to get there first. It comes with the story of, what do I actually intend to happen here? What, am I a victim in this situation where I walk down the street? Or am I a woman who's walking down the street and able to hold her own because she knows that she is not someone who has so little worth that she should be like, I don't know what the storyline is of a victim in that situation, but I know a lot of the time when women are in victim mindset, they don't feel worth in their physical body. They do feel small in their physical body. I don't ever feel small in my physical body. I feel small in other ways, maybe. Usually I feel big. Actually, usually I feel too muchness. So I wonder if that's a script, a difference. Some people feel too little sometimes they feel too much. I wonder, my script might be just on the other side of the spectrum, and that's why I don't have that experience. I mean, I know, like, if there's a dude with a gun walking at me, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't a good situation. I'm gonna assess it and hopefully react and respond in a way that I can get through that. But that's not a common thing happening, or generally men trying
Hopefully
to,
not.
generally men trying to take advantage, right? Is not a common thing happening. And I think I don't like pat myself on the back for it. It's just, I think that I have been domesticated a certain way. My life has led me here to hold this certain energy space. I do it for the women around me too.
I believe it's a very touchy subject also. Mm-hmm. It's a very touchy subject about the Me Too, because I mean, if we take a basic law of attraction teaching and apply it to the Me Too movement, it sounds like the most ludicrous and dangerous thing. Only a psychopath, in my opinion, would say, yeah, but it's your energy that attracted that, you right. Were naive, it's your energy, and then I'm like, okay, wait a second, you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, it's a touchy subject in that sense, because just because I already explained it. And that's, I believe it's also a more complex subject. Sure. It's not as simple as just this, especially when we go into something like rape culture or something like that, which is, of course, has so much emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know, since we're in here, just to hopefully, add to this topic so that it is clear, the idea of rape culture, for instance, and talking about this Me Too, obviously that's the major thing here, is that where women feel like they are being targeted and taken advantage of by a man who's consciously doing that. We have talked a lot on this episode so far about the animal and this primal piece, and getting men to understand it and invest some in it. What creates, so I believe in two parts of us, the animal and the artist. And when we can understand that the artist is essentially the alchemist who takes this animal body that they're born into, with all of its hormones, with all of its tendencies, all of its innate tendencies, and is able to alchemize it into something for service of his community and for the good of the community, he has become the artist. This is what the artist is doing. This is their work here. If we stay in the primal and animal aspect of it, that's only part of us. This is where some of that rape culture idea comes from, and a lot of how people try to explain how that's a natural thing. I mean, I understand raping and pillaging and these things come with a lot of, our generation lineage and trauma. And all this stuff is coming through the animal DNA of who we are. However, we are also a conscious, ethereal, spiritual being layered together. So these two things are living in communion. And this is what all this work we've been talking about today is all about, is allowing the energies, the two, binary, as we were talking about earlier, the binary parts of us, the two sides of us, the animal, the artist, to live in communion, because that is the only way that it's allowed to live in truth. And that is really the definition of truth, is integrity, right? Integrating these two things.
And I think that the difficulty and why it's so touchy is because, I mean, I personally, I'm sure you can both relate, I cannot understand why someone murders someone or rapes someone. I cannot understand it. I can't put myself into these shoes. I have to really hold myself together to deal with the disgusting feeling I feel in my body when I come across something. I always have a strong bodily response to something like that. And I think that's why it's so touching. It's why it's so difficult. I love what you said here, but it's so difficult to grasp what's happening there because we can't feel into it. We can't understand it at the deepest level, what's really going on there. And that's also where, I mean, we're already in this topic, but that's also where all of these spiritual teachings become blurry. Right. Everything becomes blurry because cool that you open, cool that we should all open masculine, feminine, but that person got raped.
Right.
And that's just fucking horrible. You can't say to that person, open. It's like, but again, the world is more complex. It's not black and white. And I find it beautiful that we talk about this because it's helping to bring light to this and to bring awareness to this. And I think it's very important to be aware
Yeah.
of this.
It is messy too. And that's the thing. We have to
Absolutely.
do it, even though it might not be perfect, because it needs to be discussed. And God, it sounds like so much of what we've discussed today all comes down to embodiment, all comes down to
Yeah.
is the rapist embodied? Is the woman who gets raped in this scenario not necessarily embodied there, but she becomes disembodied because of this trauma that happens? This transgression is the conversation, right? Like, why are
Yeah.
these things happening? Because we are not in our truth.
Yeah.
Period. At the end of the day, I know this
Period.
is very so esoteric and okay, that sounds, yeah, okay, Mercedes, like just be in your truth. But I don't know, listen to this episode and see where it takes you. And I'm sure it'll lead you to your truth eventually if you stick with it. So thank you for bearing through that with us, because it is a tough topic, when we bring up
It
these
is. And I
foods.
believe also I can feel it right now. I don't know about you guys, but I can feel my energy. The moment I talk about this topic, it's like an alertness, like, whoa, wait a second. Almost a kind of don't talk about it, don't mention it, don't go there, don't talk anything about this. But I think that's especially why we have to do it.
That's a beautiful
Because
point to your
that's a
practice
leadership.
too. Yeah. Leadership, so important, but the edge, like this is an edge for society
Absolute edge.
generally. And to speak to masculine, feminine work, when you talk about masculine work, you talk so much about being on your edge. David Data's work speaks about the masculine edge, like finding your edge over and over. And that is your journey as a man to become as embodied in the awakened masculine as possible, is finding that edge over and over. And so a topic like this, for instance, can trigger that, like, oof. And that feeling is, well, how much can you have to ask yourself in that moment, how much can you touch that edge and kind of sit there for a minute in the uncomfortableness of it and be there, because that's the
And
edge.
if you don't go there, you don't embody it.
And you don't push your edge further.
Exactly. No, I love it. Yeah. Beautiful to wrap it up. Yeah, like that.
I love it too. I just, there's just so much that lives in that space. And I think, hey, this is the work we're here to do. We're doing it. So now this is an interesting turn here. Something Jade and I think are both very passionate about. And I talked about hormones just a moment ago, but just because we're these primal beings, we have these functions that happen in our bodies. For women, it's very, obvious. We have a menstrual cycle every month. Jade and I are super into tracking our hormonal cycles. Actually, right now, we just released an episode with Alyssa B, who's all about tracking your cycles and living in a more empowered state by knowing how your body works as a female, when it would be the best time to even, go on an interview, in which phase of your cycle that would be. Or for men in relationship with women, how to understand a woman's moon cycle so that he can work in relationship with her in a much more empowered way. And this is what I want to touch on with you, because I know you have some perspectives on periods and how men can use that for the good of the relationship. So let's talk about your insights here.
I mean, I'm just giving an example. Recently, my woman was just journaling her moon cycles. And I told her, hey, baby, you're so cute when you do that. Like, I can see her just, journaling it down. And I'm so touched. Like, I could cry in that moment. Like, she was so soft and innocent, just diving into her own nature. And I was like, whoa, baby, it's so beautiful. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. And you can feel that I'm emotional about this in a beautiful way. And yes, a woman's period. I mean, obviously, you had someone amazing on the podcasts. I'm not going to share more about this because I'm not an expert, obviously, on it. I don't know exactly how everything works, but I know this. I know that when a woman is in her period, she has access or often embodies or radiates an immense softness, an immense kind of nurturing and this loving, beautiful, loving innocence, vulnerability of the feminine. And we have not much understanding about this in our society. As far as I know, in ancient tribes, when women were going through their period, they would gather together and just celebrate and do nothing, not nothing, celebrate, but go retreat into the womb, this kind of metaphor. And I mean, if you look at the world, I don't know of a company that says, okay, when you're in your period, you don't have to come to work, right? It's like you come to work, that's it,
Yeah.
motherfucker. And hopefully not the word motherfucker added there. But it's like there is no proper understanding there. And if there is no proper understanding in society already, like if no one really gets it, understands it, it's no one gives a crap, then at least there has to be some understanding from the masculine. Because we also, by the way, go through something like the periods. I don't know the specifics. There are people who know much more about this work, but we also go through but of course, it's different than what a woman goes through, and different also in the sense of intensity. And I talked about this in a post recently, is because a lot of women reached out to me. A woman told me that her boyfriends always withdraws their love when she's going for a period, and he's such an amazing person, but when she goes for a period, it's like he changes completely. He's like a different person. And obviously that's hurting so much, because here is this amazing person who holds space for you and you love him, but then he can't accept and see you in this kind of stage. And my idea of it, at least what my inner teacher tells me, is that, and I used to be like that, because we don't understand it, and because we're so trapped in our ego and story, we dismiss it. Yeah. And these stupid sayings, which I heard as a teenager from my masculine role models. Yeah, when she's in her period, she's crazy. When she's in her period, she talks rubbish. Just mind your own business. And I have also seen conscious men, or seemingly conscious men, who ramble something like that as well, where I asked myself at an early age, what the fuck? You can't be, I even in my mind, one time I was like, you're not my role model. In my mind, I was like, you fucking asshole, you're not my role model. No joke, this is what happened. But I didn't express it, obviously, because it's the older person, the cousin or something like that. But it's enormous strength if you can stretch out of your story, your own thing, and be like, okay, I don't experience a period like her, but I'm going to give my best to understand, hold space, and support her.
Yeah.
And that's all that's required. An empathetic approach. You don't have to read 20 books about it and tell her exactly how it works. You don't have to be a pleaser and do some weird stuff and be like, hey, baby, that's called blah, blah, blah. No, but come from true integrity. And also ask yourself, why are you annoyed when she's going through a period? What inside you annoys you? What do you not like about yourself? Because you're not getting annoyed by her period. That's ridiculous. It always resembles something within ourselves. Maybe you get annoyed by the vulnerability you feel. Maybe you get annoyed by showing an empathetic approach, because that means going out of your ego, going out of your story, going out of your me. It's all about me. And wait, it's about her. Not about me, my desires in that moment, my story, my mission, my thing, my success. No, it's about her holding space. And a lot of men have difficulties with this, because most men, and this is an honest truth, label things as, this brings me further on my path or not. This brings me money or not. Fuck it otherwise. But you can't compare things like that. You can't say something like, this is idiotic, but oh yeah, but that's not making my business better if I have an empathetic approach when she goes through her periods. Oh yeah, you cannot compare such things to one another. And the reason why is because you can't compare having an empathetic and compassionate approach to anything else, because it's literally one of the most powerful, liberating, and loving and healing things you can do. You don't compare that shit to anything.
Yeah, thank you. I don't really even have much to add to layer onto that. It's just
nice to hear a man speak about it.
Yeah, just be supportive, because this is you know what? It's not the funnest part of being a woman, but it also
I don't ever
life,
hear that. I don't ever hear a man say like, "Oh, it's so cute that she's tracking it." So that's very sweet.
Yeah, and there is work that men can dive into. We've talked about it a zillion times on the show if they want to do that. But I think really at the end of the day, it's about like what you said. Why is this thing triggering me? If it is triggering me, and I mean, the researchers on menstrual cycles basically point to what's, saying the veil is thin, especially the week before your period, PMS week, which means women are going to test you more. If we want to put it into context of this episode, women are going to trigger you more because she doesn't have, the veil is thin. She doesn't have that layer of empathy she normally has because of where her hormones are at. And so she is going to trigger you, and you're going to be like, why is she being such a bitch? Is it that she's being a bitch, or she's saying some shit that's kind of honest and just in a rougher way than you're used to her saying it, for the rest of the month?
I love that. Wow.
So
I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I did, since you said that men don't have, this, of course, men don't have the same cycle that they go through. They do have their own cycles. But I was going to ask you just if you have anything to say on this topic around boner shame, because that happens for men, especially when puberty starts. I don't know if the translation makes sense.
I know what a boner is, obviously, but
boner shame.
In what sense shame? Did you have shame that you have a boner?
Yeah, so like when men are younger, especially, and they don't know what to do with this, and it happens sometimes in the middle of class at school or something like that. They would be ashamed if it showed through their pants or something. So that was a question I had for you. Do you have anything to add to that? Because I know this is something that then becomes this issue with pornography where we have to like get it done quick and put it away and like don't get caught, and you know what I mean? It's shame building around penises.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually, you're giving me an idea, because this is actually something people are not talking about much, and it's not really touched. But there are certain things a man goes through in his teenage years. And one thing I'm going to add here is almost every teenager, even if he's heterosexual, has some kind of experience where he asks himself, do I get sexually turned on by other men or not? And you won't believe it. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but the amount of men who still suffer from this in late adult life, not because they are not heterosexual, maybe because they really have feelings for other men or bisexual or whatever, but so many times it's because that wound, just like boner shame, hasn't been treated. There is even a name for that. It's referred to as a mental illness, where you constantly question your own sexuality all the time. And also put yourself through the most horrific things, where it sometimes ends up that you watch porn and like literally it gets in this vicious cycle. But I would say it's something similar to boner shaming. It's like, and also to erectile dysfunction. All of that is most likely something along childhood or in puberty, which appeared in your consciousness, and your mind went in hard, saying something like, you're bad, you're dirty, you shouldn't feel that, that's awful. And being a toddler, not a fucking toddler, what am I saying here? But being a teenager or whatever, or high school, whatever, not a toddler, being in fucking high school, that's getting weird. But being in high school, it's like you don't necessarily share this with someone, right? You don't go to your teacher or to your best friend and say, hey, I'm in my mind thinking whether I like boys or not. You don't do that.
Right.
Because there's so much shaming around that. So you suppress it inwards. And it's nothing. It's just an experience. It's just an experience in your consciousness, but there is no understanding of it. There is no one holding the space. And here again, it comes to, do you have a father that is deeply conscious? Because if he is, he will hold the space. And if you come to him and say, Dad, I have these weird thoughts, he will say, son, no worry. Let's talk about it. And even if you like men, I love you as you are. I don't give a crap, but I know you, I feel you, and really support there. So what men would need is, then that's where you really need other men, because that will be very difficult for a woman to help you with, because she cannot put herself in these shoes to some degree for sure. But there you really need a man who had a similar experience and who just tells you, hey, fuck it, stop thinking about that. It's in
normal,
the past.
yeah.
It's normal. Relax.
Yeah, normalizing that is a serious thing.
Normalizing that.
Yeah, we're wrapping down the show here, so I'm picking your brain because your mind is fascinating to me, especially on things around males, and because Jade and I have such a strong male following on our personal platforms. So I think over 90% male on both of our personal platforms. So things that really I think men hold shame around are things for me, because I've been shame bound most of my life, especially around sexuality. So for me, it's just feels, part of my calling is to bring awareness to these things and normalize them. I want to know your thoughts, or if, and this can be completely, this is out of my realm, I have no idea, but on circumcision. Yeah. And if what your beliefs are around circumcision, because I've recently just talked to a couple different people on this, and it's, the spectrum on how people feel about this is just so all over the place. So I want to keep opening this conversation because it's so uncomfortable, especially for a lot of men in our culture here in the US, for sure. Yeah, I'm going to leave it like that. How do you want to enter this?
This might trigger people, but I'm going to speak my truth. Doing something like that with young boy who hasn't explored his sexuality, who hasn't made up his mind and said, I want to do this because I know what it actually means, is bullshit. And I don't know too much about it in terms of how it creates trauma and all of that, but I'm completely sure, and it feels true in my body, that I am half Turkish, half Austrian, but I was born in Vienna, Austria. And I know from traditional Turkish culture, it was just something that was done. And not maybe necessarily in the most nicest way, in a very weird and traumatizing way. And you can't do this to someone who hasn't explored their sexuality. And this can lead to a tremendous trauma because someone is doing something there where you don't want anything to do anything.
And it's like an experience in the very beginning of your life. Yeah.
Exactly. And there are many people. Cam Fraser, I don't know if you're familiar with Cam Fraser, but he is Australia's leading men's sexuality coach. He's also on Instagram, ever has a podcast. I was recently on his podcast, and he's really about men's pleasure and all of that. His name is Cam Fraser. Really, really beautiful guy. If you're listening, Cam, I fucking love you. You're amazing. But probably he won't listen too much, or maybe. But he has so much on his to do anyway. But he talks about that when you do, how is it called? When you do circumcision, you're taking away parts of the nerves. And don't take me literally. He knows much more. I believe it was him. He knows much more. I have no idea what exactly happens. Or maybe it was even someone else who posted that. Maybe I'm even wrong, so I don't want anyone to take me literally here.
You're cutting off the most sensitive part of the man's body.
Yes, yes. And I've seen more people share about this. And then I ask myself, holy shit, how can you do something like, and also think about the universe and just about on a spiritual approach. Everything works in harmony, right? And yes, there are random, when we have statistics, of course, there's always something random always involved in some way. But if you are born and you have a cock that's working, why change something?
Yeah.
Why cut something? Who comes? Only a human trapped in their mind can come up with an idea
like this.
It's just like growing up and saying, hey, let's cut, I'm going to cut my arm away because that's what my religion says or whatever. Like, what?
Yeah.
This is how I came. The universe is much wiser than me. And we don't know that much about the body. We don't know that much about the brain. It's fascinating how the body works. People are like, oh, we're so spiritual, our mind. Oh, but think about your fucking body. The process it goes through. And my sister got pregnant recently, has given birth recently. And she told me about all these things, how it works exactly. Unbelievable. Why the fuck are you cutting skin away when the intelligence of the universe is doing something like that?
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. And I think it's tough because we've sold ourselves on a story for so long and then
of course we want to believe the story. We want to believe the story.
And when you see your dad and your family, you other people in your life they look a different way than you, you know what I mean? So it goes, or you want to look like them, you want to have the same foreskin cut away or not, whatever's happening for you and your society, your culture, and your household. To me, it came this idea while you're talking about it being this part of a man's body. We can correlate it to the clitoris. The clitoris is an undeveloped penis. This is how we're decided we both have essentially clitoris. And that same nervous system, heavily nerve heavy area. So I'm trying to say, like the clitoris, becomes this part of the penis, the foreskin area of the penis and the head of the penis. And if we cut away a clitoris, we call that genital mutilation. So if we cut away essentially the same nerves there in the penis, this is genital mutilation. But we have to start talking about this to change this story as well. I thought about, for people to kind of step outside of the storyline that might come from their religion or might come from this thing about, well, it's unhealthy to have an uncircumcised penis. Well, we've had it that way for how many millennia? You know what I mean? Like how many centuries have we lived this way? And if we know how to clean it and everything, we're not.
Yeah, we didn't have the sanitation back then.
Yeah. Right. Well,
yeah, definitely.
We have to teach our children how to do that too. I mean, this is just part of what that is. But I was thinking visually to step aside, if you're a man listening to this or a woman listening to this, and it's really hard for you to get conceptually there because the story is so deep in your head about circumcision is necessary. Think about cutting off something as simple as the tip of your finger. Because the tip of your finger, it doesn't have anywhere near as many nerve endings as that part of a man's body, like the penis does. But the tip of your finger, think about how much sensation the tip of your forefinger has had and experienced throughout your lifetime. Whatever it's touched, I don't know, all the joys that it's experienced that have come just through the tip of your finger, just the nerves in the tip of your finger. So when we think about cutting off something with that many nerve endings on a human body, that's what you're sacrificing the tip of your finger times zillion, whatever joy this has given you times however many more nerve endings. I'm not a scientist, so I'm just trying to visually give this to people. So anyway, thank you for your thoughts on that, because I know we've brought it up on the show a few times because I think it is something we have to keep bringing back around and touching on, even though it is really sensitive. I
think a lot of mothers, when they are having a son, a lot of mothers are conflicted about it. But it's, in my experience, not only I have a son that'll be 6 this year, but also with other women that I know that have had sons, they were really on the fence about it, or they didn't want to do it. And it was the dad that was like, well, I don't want him to be different than me and his brother, or I don't want him to get made fun of. And so it was the dad that talked them into it, actually, which is a hard thing to wrap your head around. But I know that for me, I've said multiple times that it's like my biggest regret in parenting is listening to that voice from his father and going through with the circumcision. Then they mess it up and they thought they were gonna have to do it again. And like that was the intro to his life. And not only that, you read, in Peter Levine's books about how when we are strapped down and performed a procedure, that there is PTSD from those experiences. And that's how some men are starting their life, So I do have I wasn't aware at the time, but once I was made aware, now I do feel very passionate about trying to help other women become aware, and men, because it seems that even men in my life now that, are starting to walk towards consciousness, they still don't think there's anything wrong with circumcision at all. So there is a lot of awareness that needs to come.
Yeah, there's a shame trigger around, well, I'm already circumcised, so I don't want to say something's wrong here, because nothing is wrong with the circumcised penis. It's the act of circumcising that we're pointing out here. We need to not do this. So that's an important, I'm so glad you bring that up too, Jade, because the shame piece around men that already have been circumcised, by the way, wasn't their choice anyway.
But they, in their heads, think that the uncircumcised penis is less attractive too,
Well, there's a whole story around that. Yeah, there's a whole story around that too. Yeah, women too. Women feed into it.
I love that you're bringing this subject in, because it's important to talk about it. And I really want to praise you both, because you are not afraid to go into the deep topics. And this is just something I see a lot, especially on social media, is that you have these people who only do the kind of viral shits and really don't touch these topics out of the fear of, okay, I might lose people, and that's bullshit. Leadership is exactly what you both are doing. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Receive that. I sweat a lot. I always sweat like right here in this area when I talk about taboo topics, or when I'm in a therapy session. Yeah, like I noticed that's how I know it's like, okay, I got to stay with
what this. A response. What a response of the body. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also now I kind of know, oh, that's what's happening. And my breathing, changes too, where I'm like, okay, breathe, because I get tense because it's nerve-wracking. But these are important things. And speaking to breath, I want to bring that up with you, especially because this is something you do a lot of with yourself.
Breath work is crucial.
Yeah. So
Ooh.
yeah, I would just want to,
I know we're running out of time, but we just want to hear quickly, like, why is breath work crucial to you?
Right. Why should we prioritize this? Right
Well,
now I need to take a deep breath, and I was like, I need to ask him.
The thing is, when I first came across pranayama or yogic, breathwork is yoga. Like almost everything stems out of yoga. There is warrior yoga, intimacy yoga, and breathwork is kind of the pranayama version of yoga. Most often it's referred to, but I'm not an expert in this anyway. But the thing is, I know not one single tool that changes my awareness, my physical, my mentally, my emotional, my spiritual state faster and more powerfully than breath work. And I'm not going to say sitting in stillness meditation is bad, but it's just very hard in this society, because whenever I just sat down, okay, close my eyes, I was just thinking. It's thinking meditation. You sit down to think. And I know for sure that the great yogis and Buddhists are not thinking. Well, of course, maybe a thought appears. Meditation is another topic. I'm not saying you don't have any thoughts, but they're not sitting down thinking and then in their meditation thinking. It's a total different approach. It's a different, also how you grow up. If you live in an ashram or something like that, and you have nature around you, and you don't wake up with an alarm clock, and you have this really at one with nature, it's totally different. You're much more easily can access stillness. But in this world, if you live in a big city like New York, like London, like Paris, whatever, it's like so much stimulation, social media, all of that. And I'm just, for stillness meditation is not enough. I'm just like maybe relaxed, but I don't want to be relaxed. I want to be fucking grounded. I want to have a tool that gets me out of my fight, flight responses, my anxiety, my anger, my fear, and breathwork is it. And most people practice very easy pranayama breathwork. So you have Nadi Shodhana, maybe Nadi Shodhana is not an easy breathwork practice, but you have this kind of box breathing, 4 seconds in, 4-second hold. These are all beginner practices to calm your mind, to begin and to relax. But if you get into advanced yogic breathwork, if you really start to get into asanas and practice, for instance, Kapalabhati or Bastrika or breath of fire, whatever name we use, or really intense Kundalini yoga, advanced Kundalini yoga, it's unbelievable, because you're not relaxing. Well, maybe you are. You're not just chilling down. You are initiating yourself into higher states of awareness and consciousness. And my spiritual practice is my foundation. It's my fundament. Now I practice 1.5 hours every morning of intense breath work. There are days where I don't do it. There is a week where I don't do it as much, but I practice every single day. But optimally, it's 1.5 hours. That's very intense, advanced breath work. And that changes everything. It makes you stronger. And if you think about it in a yogic approach, that prana that you create, that life force energy, prana helps you. I don't get really sick anymore. Like catching a cold, I'm not afraid of it. Like I don't have a single fear in my body of what if I catch a cold? Oh, it's cold or anything. It's like the prana is just so fucking strong. And even if something comes into my system, almost all of the time, my body beats it easily. And I just a little
detox it. Yeah.
Exactly.
The breath
and if you think about
detoxin.
it, if you think also about cells need to shit. Again, I'm not a scientist or anything, but cells need to shit. Yeah. And especially in your lower stomach, that area is not getting enough oxygen because we have such a weak and shallow breath in this society. Trauma breathing is just what comes up for me right now, which is kind of intense. But yeah, but getting the breath deeper, getting the breath into the perineum area, that's where you really shift your state. That's where you really connect to your body. That's where you can really shift out of intense suffering and trauma. And I had my most intense traumatic emotion releases through breath work. Wow. So it's what I teach my clients also when they're ready for it. And yeah, but only with my clients, and if it's really in a setting of where I know it's totally safe, because and this is also the reason why I don't teach breath work necessarily in classes or anything like that, is because I don't have a transmission from a yogi. And in a tradition of real yogis and real enlightened beings, you got to give energetical transmissions, and or at least have studied a long time with a master. And I have people around me. I have practiced with people who taught me so much, but that's why I keep it more for myself and only bring some components in with clients when it's really necessary and when they want it. But yeah, so breathwork is just the most powerful tool I know of for everything, just your spiritual evolution. But spiritual practice is the key if you want to really become an embodied man, because spiritual practice is embodiment work, period.
Yeah. What a beautiful invitation for people to dive deeper into their spiritual practice and breath work, whatever you land on, try that. Like it'll come to you. You know what I mean? When you're looking for spiritual.
One last thing I want to add here, sorry to interrupt you, but people say one of my recent mentors told me something along the lines of, don't complain if you didn't practice. Don't. You complaining? Did you practice? Yes. Okay, let's talk about it. It's like, hey, yeah, my life, all of that. Did you practice?
Right.
Yes, I did practice 1.5 hours. All right, let's talk about it. What's going on? Or did you practice? No, I didn't go practice. But you know this thing. No, shut the fuck up. Go practice.
Yeah.
And this is also the thing. People are like, yeah, I'm not awakening. I'm not attracting a conscious man or conscious woman. Yeah, you only do 5 minutes of meditation each morning. Are you fucking kidding me? This path is hard. These yogis, they're not chilling and just doing 5 minutes of meditation. Some of them are doing 15 hours of yoga, meditation, breath work. That's for years and years, putting themselves in a cage, isolating themselves. Don't complain about your life if you are not practicing.
Yeah.
And this is also for me. This is also the approach I have for myself. I'm like, wait a second. I practiced 20 minutes, 30 minutes this morning. Are you fucking kidding me? That's what I ask myself. Oh yeah, my life, yeah. No, practice, boom.
I love hearing it from a man, because that is largely the rigid ideology that needs to be shaken. We need to shake people sometimes into this type of work. Like, hey, are you doing this practice? And I just add the little caveat on there too, that don't allow it to overwhelm you. Like, well, I'm never going to be able to do 15 hours of breath work a day or practice a day. You know what I mean? I don't know if 15 hours of breath work would ever happen, but 15 hours of meditation a day. Don't allow the overwhelm of it to not get you to begin the work. If it is 5 minutes a day you can do that. And it will open up whatever the next allowance can be for you. So yeah, I just want to add that caveat to it of just begin. Like that's where it has to start, is you taking the initiative to start.
And also what's happening, I love what you're saying, what's happening is the mind resists it, because the mind doesn't want to fucking focus on the breath for 1.5 hours and go through all kinds of sequences and really hold that. There's some breathing techniques which are just exhausting if you are not fully alert and really with a state of power and presence engaging in them. It's like, oh my God, this is so difficult, because you really, but what my recent mentor told me is, in your practice is the altar where you bring all of your shit, all of your shadows, all of your pain. And yeah, that's what you do. That's how it works. That's the shadow work. That's the real work. Yeah. It's not just in the podcast here, we're talking about it, but tomorrow or afterwards, we practice it, or maybe not, hopefully.
Yeah. I love the mantra though. I'm going to keep that with me for sure, that, don't complain unless you've practiced. Make sure that those two things are in alignment, and that's really, really beautiful stuff. And I know that you mentioned when you're talking about breath work that you don't invite all of your clients to do it unless they are ready. And just as a word of, I don't even want to call it warning, because again, I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed to a point where they don't begin the work or give any reason that they can't begin. But there is some warning needed in deep work, because spontaneous, Kundalini awakenings, for instance, or things that come through breath work need to be held, like you're saying, in the space of someone who knows how to assist you with that energetic release. However, don't let that stop you from trying what you can do on your own, because I believe that doing a lot of this stuff, you have to play with it, see how it feels in your body, and get experiential. And by the way, if you have something that comes up, look, there are therapists and coaches and people and mentors and shamans and yogis that can help you all over the place. All you have to do is reach out and ask for that assistance.
But I love what you said about the Kundalini, especially. I mean, their educations, I'm going to use the word education because I no trainings, they're Kundalini trainings, 1 weekend, and you have a certificate as a teacher.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's true.
what?
Yeah. Mhm.
That's fucking dangerous. Because if you know what Kundalini energy is, how powerful it is. Because when the snake comes, it fucking comes. And it's respect. Like, I'm saying this from the deepest respect. Don't fuck with the snake. Or the snake is only the metaphor, obviously.
The Kundalini.
Yes, but don't fuck with it. Have respect, and it will be all right. But there is a reason why people who have Kundalini awakenings most often get initiated into them, have a proper teacher who helps you, because, yeah, it's just intense.
Because, otherwise it can look like a mental breakdown or something, that's not, you didn't get walked through. You didn't get initiated. This is getting very esoteric again, as we see here. There's books called The Kundalini Awakening if you want to read more on whatever that is, and any of this breath work. And of course, we will ask people to go to all of your platforms, especially your social media. But before we get there, I want to just ask a few short questions that we like to ask everyone who comes on the show. So first off, if you could hug your younger self right now, Lorin, what would you say?
Trust the process. It will be all right. And if it isn't all right yet, then it's not the end yet.
If you could have the whole world read one book, which would it be?
I mean, that's a given. It's my book, Understand Women Better, available on Amazon, Kindle and printed version, and also as a digital ebook on my website, lorinkrenn.com. So
it.
I'm going to say something selfish here, but I truly believe it.
I love it. If you could whisper one phrase to everyone on the planet, what would it be?
Trust her oracle.
That's good. Before we let you go, where can people find you online?
My main platform is Instagram, just handle Lorin Krenn. My podcasts, the Lorin Krenn podcast, or just Lorin Krenn. My website, lorinkrenn.com. My YouTube, Lorin Krenn. So just Lorin Krenn.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to spell it for everyone. It's LORINKRENN.
Thank you.
Yeah. Trust me, guys, you will, women, men, everyone listening, non-binary folks, this man is doing healing work and you need him in your life. So go follow his Instagram. Jade and I are putting his posts back and forth between the two of us every day. Basically what happens is I go in, I see some posts, I send them to Jade, and then I go into my DM and Jade's already posts.
Yeah.
Jade's already sent me this thing. So they're flying around all of our sphere. Everyone who we already know personally definitely has seen your post come through, is probably already following you. But
that really touches me.
I mean, you are doing this work, you are living this work. I can tell just here by talking to you and of course listening to your show and seeing your posts. So I just want to thank you for doing this and sitting with us through these hard topics too, because, it's not necessarily even your spirit, but I just felt that you would have something here to add, and just having the conversation about some of these things is worthwhile. Doesn't matter what it looks like, to be honest. We just need to be keeping it in our atmosphere so it can get cleared. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you for doing the work you're doing, and thank you for being a light, Lorin.
Yes.
Thank you so much. As I said before, it was truly an honor to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He was really so refreshing to experience a man in the work. And I know, Jade, you and I, this is so much of our calling here, is supporting generally humans, men and women, but because we have a very large male following, supporting men to do this work has been, I felt really called, and I know you've expressed the same, of just making a space where, whether it comes through our voice or the voice of our hosts or our the people we host, our guests is what I meant, giving a space here for that work to be heard, for that ideology of men doing the work to be heard is so cool. Like we are creating this place, like Lorin just said, we are doing that, and I do receive that, because it is true. Like we didn't think a couple of years ago when we put this show together, that we'd get here. I don't know. I mean, it's not like we didn't think it would ever happen, but just seeing it happen and come to fruition feels really empowering. Like, cool. Like, what do we do next? Like, what's more to come from this, And it just feels like hell yeah, we're in it. We're doing it. So thank you, Magic Mobbers, who are listening right now. And especially, for you fellas or for you women who are awakening, who are doing this work alongside us when we have these podcasts, and then you take something from it and you read the book and you apply it to your life, or you grab a journal or whatever. Thank you for doing that. It is so crucial to raising the vibration on this planet, and that's why we're so thankful to be sharing this world with y'all. Yes. All right, sorry, that was my long spiel.
No, I agree on all of it. Yeah, it is. It gives me an overwhelming amount of joy. I know that our magic tricks are pretty similar today. I noticed, like, once again.
Wow.
But what you wanna go through yours?
Yeah. Okay, wait. So then I'm not going to change my magic trick. I'm just going to add something on because it popped in my head as I was finishing that little rant. A maybe magic trick that I should have asked Lorin to give, but that he said on his show that it just popped in when we were talking here. He said, if you do not have, he said, bros, if you do not have a journal, what the fuck are you doing? And these are
yeah.
He said, you cannot experience growth without a journal, fellas. Women, I know we might be more already, we probably have journals. I don't know. I didn't grow up with one. My mom told me never to write anything down. So then I was like allergic to writing that. But now I journal everything, that's definitely part of my process. I talk about it all the time. You talk about it too all the time. This is a necessary part of growth, is getting stuff physically out of your body onto the page. So take it from Lorin. Men, grab a journal, any piece of paper, use your phone, whatever. Write the shit down that comes out of you, and it will change you. It will bring you towards awakening, truth, and consciousness. We love you for it. Okay, but my magic trick is discerning whether something is new or a no. Okay, so both feel very similar because, when something's a no, your body closes down and tightens and fear surfaces. This is, very sometimes even icky feeling, or just like, you're like, no, I don't want to do it. Now, when is that feeling actually something new and not a no, right? This is where the discernment comes in. If it's a no, you're going to feel the contraction and stagnancy. So that's an important word there. If it's new, you'll feel the contraction of fear at the same time as excitement. Excitement is, something for the future where you feel an opening there, though, right? So like, if you can look past the fear you're experiencing now and you have excitement that you can see is projecting into the future, that there may be an opening there where there's something you could look forward to, that's something new. It's scary at first, so you might feel that trigger of like, ooh, I gotta contract. No, like that's a no because I feel the contraction. Look deeply and discern whether there is stagnancy there or whether there is the openness of excitement as the last flavor you sense there. And if it excites you and scares you at the same time, to put it in other words, if it excites you and scares you at the same time, probably means that you should do it. That probably means that it's new to you. Okay, so that's my magic trick. Is it a no or is it new? And those are the ways that you can discern it. What is your magic for us?
So mine is sort of similar. It's called muscle testing. It's basically like asking your body for an answer. So this only works if you have a good relationship with your body. But the other two things that can stop it from working are if you have a habit of lying, because if you're lying, your body is absorbing that and it doesn't feel good in your body. So therefore your body's not able to speak its truth to you. So there's that. And then also if you're like very tech heavy, like if you've always got your cell phone on you, if your life is void of like grounding in the grass, if you like sit with your laptop on your lap a lot, anything that like involves a lot of tech around you, those are things that can block this from working. But a way you can find out if it works. So, well, I'll tell you that, but first I'll tell you what muscle testing is. So muscle testing is if you make a duck bill with your hands. So like if you make with one hand, you form it into like a duck's mouth as if you're making a duck shadow, right? And then you put your other hand as a duck bill, but put your so say your right hand, the two fingers are in between your left hand's fingers, right? So it's like two duck mouths together. One duck's mouth is inside the other duck's mouth, right? Does that make sense?
Hopefully. To me, it makes sense. Yeah, but I can see you. So hopefully people can think about if you were going to use just two fingers to do a shadow puppet on the wall to make a duck. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got your right hand fingers inside your left hand's fingers, two ducks, and you have to ask a yes or no question. So this is how you find out what feels like a yes and what feels like a no. So first, you're going to say a true statement. and see how that feels. And then you're going to say a not true statement. So for me, I'm going to say, my name is Jade Bryce and I am 36 years old. Is that true? And then I'm going to push down on the outer fingers and see how that feels. So when I push down on my outer fingers, my left hand, my right fingers don't provide much room. Like there's not much happening, right?
There's no lax. There's no laxivity.
So that's what my yes feels like. So then it's always important that you say thank you to clear out that question, and you can move on to the next one. Like thank your body for that answer. Then to find out what a no feels like, I'm going to say, my name is Jade Bryce and I am 40 years old. And I can see that when I say no, like there's more lax, like there's more movement when I ask that. So that's muscle testing. And I have worked and met psychics that use this as their way of receiving answers. But the way that Paul Chek teaches it is just you asking your body what would serve it best. Like, should I do cardio today? You get a yes or no. Should I do weights today? You get a yes or no. Would it serve me best to have chicken today? Yes or no. Or to have more veggies today? Yes or no. Like you can ask all types of questions for what your body needs, and your body will answer you through this muscle testing. So that's how you find out what your yes or no feels like. It's either a lot of give or no give. And then you can ask that question all the time. You just have to make sure to like thank your body in between the questions. That way you're moved on to the next question. And if it's not working for you, if a yes and no feels the same, then you go to why, what's causing the interference in your relationship with your body so that your body can speak to you, because this is a proven tool that can be used. So you can, do more grounding. You can ask yourself where maybe you're not speaking your truth, or maybe where you're lying to yourself, or you can maybe do a little, you don't have to detox and not use tech, just keep it off your body, because that does mess with our energetic charge. So yeah, that's something that to me, when I found that tool, I thought it was mind blowing. I was like, I mean, it sounds so silly. I mean, my kids like it too. Like my kids do it. So yeah, I thought it was a cool little magic trick. It actually sounds like a magic trick. So
yeah, it does sound like magic. I like it. I mean, intuition is magic, I suppose, at the end of the day, because we can't really see it and we have to just trust it. That's the hard thing. Everyone in this, which I know
it's a form of intuition.
Yeah. And we have to trust. We have to, in this situation, we have to trust ourselves, which is the hardest thing ever. Because people right now, I can feel in myself, in my skeptical mind, that resistance of trust. This is a science proven, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's me not wanting to trust myself, because I know the answer to all the questions I'm going to ask myself, especially about my body and what I should do today with it. But I have to be able to trust that whenever I answer, that I can trust the answer.
Yeah. And there is a book. I don't have the name of it. I was looking in my notes. I'm not seeing it, but there is a book on this. I believe it's just called Muscle Testing. There's a whole book on it. So for people who are intrigued. Yeah. All right, Magic Mobbers, thank you so much for tuning in and taking this journey with us. If this episode held some magic for you, please share it with your friends and family. This would mean so much to us. And don't forget to join us on our Instagram page at The Magic Hour and let us know what your favorite episodes have been so far. We appreciate all of your feedback and really want to know what is lighting you up.
We do. And with that, please rate, review, subscribe, you guys. We love you so much. We love doing this work. As you know, every time we talk to you, this is our baby. This is the thing that we don't make any money from this. We just are doing it because it fills us up. It has changed our lives. And that might be the selfish part of it, but we also feel like by doing it, it allows and invites other people to do the work with us, change their own lives for the better. And with that, we hope that you are finding value in this. We will love to see your reviews. It lights us up. We'll meet you there. Until then, fam.
Be alive. Bye.